have any disclaimers to announce other than the ones that I use in my life continuously. And they are that I have the power and I wish to be forgotten at some point in time, and also that there is an endearing conversation happening underneath you, around you, and so on. If you have your mobile devices handy and you are linked into Twitter, Banjo, Facebook and similar, please tag your content, your thoughts and your descriptions with these 4 hashtags if you get the opportunity. There's an unfolding discourse happening underneath around what we're talking about today, and as if you've had an opportunity to network today, you would have realised that you're in the company of people who are part of my family, friends, colleagues who have travelled interstate and across suburbs, and I thank them dearly for attending. And there are people here that are predominantly focused on the use of these particular surveillance technologies within the context of the education sector. When I say sector, that's probably a misnomer. Really, within the context of education and training, which transcends all industry and transcends all faculties and disciplines. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Wollongong, Faculty of Informatics, School of Information Systems and Tech. My co-supervisors are Tony Leonin from Aalto University in Finland, who is predominantly known for his research-based design and prototyping works. Also Professor Michael Keppel from Charles Sturt Uni in terms of flexible learning, e-learning and networked learning. And I have a key supervisor, of course, is Katina. I wish to acknowledge at this point that we have in absence MG Michael, who I will attribute in one of my slides, specifically around one topic, which I would like to touch on very momentarily to leave you in thought and discussion. I work for the Australian National Data Service. In this context, I find it very difficult to find a separation between what I do in my life and what I do within my employment and what I do within my directorships and what I do within my discourse with others. It is gradually a ubiquitous, melded world. That was rather timely. As you'll see, there are some fairly... the purpose of the Australian National Data Service, it's one of the largest, if you wish, data surveillance engines in Australia. It provides services for finding, citing, reusing and colluding between vast bodies of information. I'm also a director in a company which has looked at the nature of wearable, downloadable, geolocated technologies that are streamed to the net, that also interface with your mobile technology and everything that you currently do within your normal mobile interface, but also, as we saw today, a number of technologies which are fast emergent in the wearable space. Our predominant involvement with this company is at a directorship level. I intersect at a research intellectual property crossroads. The most popular product, just out of interest, is these particular types of technologies, which retail for $112 Australian. They have on board 4 gigabytes worth of storage data in one arm. They have an independent power source in the other arm. They record from the centre point of vision, point of view of these sunglasses. They come in probably about 90 different varieties, some that are so clearly, obviously overt as a technology of not being sunglasses, and some that you would distinctly not recognise or not find any distinction between a normal pair of sunglasses and what they look like. These are exploding in terms of the use, the most popular use in the educational sector because of their ease of putting them on, disassembling them, reusing them, or using them in different contexts where it's not necessarily about evidence-driven activities. It's about capturing content for reuse in the context of aggregation of rich media to demonstrate from experts' perspective what's occurring, and also connecting with the learner without necessarily needing to explain over and over again the same skill. I'm also a non-shareholding director in a with down under Security Solutions, under the branded area of Uberveillance, and my primary interest is understanding the sector of the primary focus of those particular environments. But as you heard, most popular product is the keyfob. We're here today around this particular valence, and in saying so, I wish to acknowledge the instrumental and powerful works that Professor Steve Mann has provided us in the ways that we have the power to equip and become something more than simply a biological standing one entity, and how we can intermediate that with connections and distribution with others. Steve came into my cognizance as an art student when I was doing my arts degree. I met with Steve, and I've met very momentarily, I've met him within the context of my lecturer in painting, who was Stellark. Some people may know Stellark in Australia as a performance artist. Tim certainly does. And within that context, I have followed Steve's work since I graduated from high school, which was a little while ago. In thinking around this discussion, it came to me one evening after having a discussion with MG Michael as to where these technologies seem to be heading within a philosophical context and within a dream state. If we think of the three apexes as to where things are occurring, surveillance, surveillance and dataveillance, I can't find any other symbol that better epitomises the cyclical nature and the unification of these technologies, and at its core, Uberveillance, which I will not touch on any further within the context of the discussion today. I'm heavily involved and interested in the nature of local technologies, social local mobile. I'm interested in the nature of the conversations that are intersecting and what evolves on the fly. Mark Esky made only one comment, which I thought was rather pertinent, as to the current discourse or understanding as to where Uberveillance may fit within our contemporary engagement around valences. Mark uttered some profound short statements as part of his panel presence at the Surveillance and in Everyday Life, which was hosted here over the last 2 days, and I appreciate his resonance across the educational and training sectors in the past. Incidentally, I pictured this picture and I distributed this picture back to him, and he redistributed the picture, which has now gone to 27,000 people. So the nature of where these hashtags end up have elevated somewhat remarkably. So it's the power of the tweet. I also use an application called Instagram. I'm a visual person. As you'll note, I'm not reading my notes for you. I don't have notes to run through. I'm running from what I do visually and what I hear audibly. I'm a very visual person, and yesterday, having a conversation with 2 other individuals, I so happened by mistake to turn my phone to the wrong camera view, which is pointing back at myself, and realised that we were being pointed at in the same location. So I kind of like that synoptic type of argument that we often engage in as well. By sending this image to Instagram, it's co-located me with many other people, and I realised that within a short period of time that my banjo social network technology had picked up that there were also 916 people within 983 metres that were looking at that image within a very short period of time as well. So by connecting the two together and the networks together, we have the power of persuasion and the view and the twist and the mastery and mystery of using this technology to twist others' perspective of us. The profundity of this surveillance technology within the context of law enforcement is no longer, as you would be well aware, a narrative which is contemporary. This is a very dated space. This image was submitted to, as you will see, Wikimedia Commons under CC by 0 almost 2.5 years ago as a primary focus around a very interesting range of discussion, if you care to go and see who the contributor is and who they're connected to, around the power of persuasion of the technology. Do we believe that this image is real? Does this image speak to you of something that's actually occurred in factual life and that has actually occurred in a reality that makes you believe that it actually happened with a law enforcement context?
But what's that? Where'd you get that image?
It's you.
Where did you get that? Facebook.
Tim Burns, to my left, is a very well-known artist who, as if anybody went to Tim's workshops or presentations over the last couple of days, will realise that Tim's also, as he stated, has been arrested many times for his activities of subversion and also for engaging the audience. And I have always respected Tim's work around the relational aesthetic that Nicholas Bourriard speaks of very deeply. Tim, this image has been distributed in many, many different ways across many, many different engines, and by attribution it says image author unknown, because it's true. Or is it?
I mean, the person who took the photograph, yeah, I know who that was. Of course, the situation was totally fake, really. I was paying the police at the time. First time I've ever done that, I might add. But, it took a lot of health and safety to get the kind of thing through. I'd just blown up a car and been arrested for it. And yeah.
So the only real difference of truth, belief, and the nature of what you will do when you posit this within your courtrooms is that you're inviting the audience to be the officer. That's what I spoke to Mark about as we departed yesterday, and we almost walked on water, didn't we, Mark? Almost. The parallels of belief are incredibly important when we contextualise, when we compare, and when we consider that the police officer is actually wearing a pair of point-of-view video glasses. However, most of the imagery that you'll find are that the imageware has a overt context to signify, metaphorically control the nature of who it influences, as the dust people were talking about earlier. It controls, but it may not actually be switched on. So I'll leave you to ponder what the parallels are between those two images there. So, what I'm also interested in is the vocabulary that I'm hearing used in this room today. There seems to be vast differences in the way that people describe this particular type of technology, and in doing so the vocabulary is very important in terms of the metadata and all the attributives of GIS relating to the type of information that may or may not be distributed to the big engine in the sky. If you go to any major search engine and look for POV, you will find a whole range of different contexts and vocabularies and sectors and uses and similar. So I think it's important that we also examine what the nature of that nomenclature is in the context of what it provides. Last night I ditched 37 slides in my presentation because this came along, and this is the Tazar Axon last night announced this particular type of technology. If you will bear with me, they have ditched the cable that attaches to the large body wearable video component on the chest, and in doing so I believe they have changed the whole context as to what is permissible and not permissible within the context of their policing actions, duties and roles. This device wirelessly connects with the body-worn device that's on the chest. It also, when docked, colludes with a new player in the market. The new player in the market unifies the nature of those engines of information in such a way that it becomes a portal for one unification between forces for the collusion of information, drilling and data. And I think it's actually even more interesting that the company that they subscribed to provide the intellectual insight into the psychology of how that device was built is actually a social media aggregator. Looksy, if you haven't heard of Looksy, is a very important player in this market at current. Looksy purports to provide a service that allows you to record live, to stream live, to archive live and to collude live. If you're wealthy enough, you can connect your databases to their databases for other purpose. But predominantly they're interested in this space. They're predominantly interested in how and what you will permit with one tick or aggregation of what you see and what you do. If you go to looksy.com and have a look at their site, you will see the difference of ways that they posit permissions and what they're using this data for. There are pictures of mothers helping their children up playground equipment, wearing the technology and streaming that live to their husbands in other environments. There are pictures of people at young children's football matches streaming the data live to social media engines, being the ones that you see on this particular slide. Which brings us to a point in case. This is a very, very real case. Sorry, Katina, I have to throw you into this one. Katina understood that I had found the FBI warning on this particular device, which was, do not consider this device to be a toy. This toy could be used within the context of pedophilia and other activities. So I bought it online from Maytel. I posted the package, not anonymously, but wrapped, because I was interested in Katina's response.
It's still wrapped.
It's still wrapped.
Yeah.
The device allows you to record high-definition video from the chest, the embodied view, the internal to external, the transdermal to public view of a young child's interactions at and below waist level. And the nature of the device is that by plugging the USB into an orifice within the doll, that you can transmit and download automagically from the doll into a social network called Barbie World. And in that Barbie World environment, I would be very interested to know the statistics of participation, IPs and similar that led to the shutdown of Barbie World. Barbie World was shut very quickly. Why? Which brings me to really the nature of the context and the presence in this room of some lead innovators and lead edu-technologists, techno-evangelists, less than techno-evangelists, people who are very interested within the context of the nature of these technologies within the educational interface. As custodians of one of the most conservative nature of our role, we find ourselves informing, policing, outlining, enrolling, informing this space, and this space is now hyper-connected with other spaces, and in doing so we have to understand the nature of the technologies we find ourselves with, particularly within the wearable technology space, and none more so than within the context of connecting one environment to the other, and the implications and socio-technical considerations we have to take as researchers within this space.
2 minutes, Alex.
I've killed the slide, thank you, 2 minutes left. Just back to the beginning. And I welcome questions. One slide that I omitted and forgot, and I would like to have it there, is that currently there are 412,000 static CCTV cameras employed as part of one mesh network grid in a number of cities within or one particular city within China. I would like to know what the statistics are now of the wearable technologies that are registered within those environments and what they might mean within the Australasian context, broader than simply where we are here in Australia. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Any questions for Alex?
Alex, what sort of environments or industries have you seen big uptake in terms of education training using POV technology?
I'll answer that in three ways. From a research level, every organisation that I know of in Australia is using them. From a commercial perspective, there are a number of key players or key leaders within the context of the use of the technology. And I'm talking about within the vocational education and training sector, and I'm talking also to sectors within the primary education sector who are looking at the research into the use of the technology with autistic children, with people with an interest in the psychological profiles and changes of adaptive conversation, within the arts particularly, and I'm seeing a huge uptake of the use of the technology within an educational context across the tertiary sector, particularly within sports sciences, and social research within audience flash mobbing and the analysis of social space, and of course within the context of policing and similar. So the answer threefold is everywhere.